All right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are back.
Yeah.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week, we are going to be looking at Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 18. The title of our Torah portion is "And He Appeared," by Yira. And He appeared.
Yeah.
So we are going to just get right into it. We're going to go ahead and pull up chapter 18. We'll go ahead and read through the chapter, and as usual, go ahead and discuss some of our findings. So let me just go ahead and pull that up for us here. Bereshit, chapter 18. There's a couple interesting things that go on in this chapter. We'll look at here. Let me put this up on the screen for us. And you can go ahead and read that nice and loud.
All right. And it says, "And Yahweh appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw that there saw 3 men standing opposite him. And he saw them. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, Yahweh, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And let me bring you a piece of bread and refresh your hearts. And then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said. So Abraham ran into the tent to Sarah and said, hurry, make ready 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and a good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. And they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, see, in the tent. And he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life, and see, Sarah is your wife. Sarah your wife is to have a son. And Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old too? And Yahweh said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I truly have a child, since I am old? Is any matter too hard for Yahweh? At the appointed time, I am going to return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah is to have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to send them away. And Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahweh brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And Yahweh said, because the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy, I am going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I know. So the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Yahweh still stood before Abraham. And Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wrong, so that the righteous should be as the wrong. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right? And Yahweh said, if I find Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, look, please, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahweh. Suppose there are 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 45, I do not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there are found 40. And he said, I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, let not Yahweh be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there are found 30. And he said, I would not do it if I found 30 there. And he said, look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahweh. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, let not Yahweh be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then Yahweh went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place.
Okay, very good.
Just go down to number 1.
All right. So let's go back up. Look at a few things. Let's see here. Let's go back up to the top. All right. Genesis 18. All right, so we are looking at here Genesis 18 verse 1, and it starts by saying, and Yahweh appeared. And Yahweh appeared. It's interesting that when we look at the scriptures, this particular phrase, and Yahweh appeared, appears up to this point. This is the third time that we see this in scripture. The
Yahweh appeared.
And Yahweh appeared. Yes, there are various points in time when we see this particular phrase. But this just happens to be the third time that we see it in scripture. The first 2 times, of course, were also with who is now named Abraham. I was getting ready to say Avram, but at this point, the scripture says that he shall no longer be called Avram. Does that mean when we go back that we're supposed to call him Abraham? Okay, so if we go back and look at the previous times that we find this in scripture, first time we see it is chapter 12 and verse 7. And this is where Yahweh told Avram what the covenant would be. So we see back in chapter 12 that chapter 12, verse 7, where he says, go ahead, read that chapter
And
7,
Yahweh
verse 7.
And Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, "To your seed I give this land." And he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh, who had appeared to him.
Okay, so we have here this first instance. We see this chapter, the Most High sends Avram out away from his land, his people, and begins to speak with him and says what it is that he will do for him. And then when we get over into the next chapter, well, not the next chapter, but the next incidents of this particular phrase, this is what we looked at last week, actually, where it says that Yahweh appeared to Avram, and then we spoke at length about El Shaddai. But in this chapter, this is when that covenant is sealed, right? It's the sealing of the covenant. We learn about circumcision as the sign of the covenant. We see that Abraham then circumcises himself and all of the male people in his group, I don't know, household, the place where he lived, all the people that were in his family and bought with silver and were all circumcised. And so we see these two times. We talked about the first time. When we think about, Abraham and the whole idea of the Most High saying what he was going to do for him. And then we had that situation where the fire went between the split animals and all of that. And then we see over here when Yahweh appeared to him and gave him his some of his attributes. Again, speaking about El Shaddai. And then the last time, this is actually the last time we see this phrase used with Abraham, the third time. And there are a few things that happen. And so these things is what we're actually going to look at. These things that happen with the interaction with Abraham when he says that it says that he came and appeared unto him. If we look at this, and let me pull up our tools here. This word here, appeared, is ra'ah, which means to see literally or figuratively. It's used in various different ways. Appear, approve, behold, certainly, consider, discern, enjoy, experience, gaze. There's kind of various amounts of ways that this word can be used. Now, it's interesting when we think about here. Let's look at let's see. Do we have the word study dictionary on here? I got glass on there or something. Hold on a second. You see how many times this word is used in the scriptures? It's going on and on. Wow. Like I'm pushing. It's like this. Hold on one second. Wow. I'm not even doing this for effect. Like I'm just trying to. Okay, hold on. This word is used a plethora of times. If we look over here, I want to look at the word study definition of it here. Make that a little bigger. Okay. All right. So we see here verb meaning to see. Its basic denotation is to see with the eyes. Okay. And so we can think about the idea of seeing something, you know, sometimes the way that we talk, you know, we could say, I see you, but it's referring to kind of a recognition of someone, right? I recognize you, right? I see you. I understand you. Right. It could be like an acknowledgement, right? And so, but we see over here what this is trying to say to us is that its basic denotation is to see with the eyes. It can also have the following derived meanings, all of which require the individual to see physically outside of himself or herself, to see so that one can learn to know whether it be another person or him. And so when we look at this word and the way in which it's used, it's typically used in a way that deals with the actual seeing, right? The actual seeing. Another interesting thing that we see about this word, we go over to the Strong's here. What's interesting about this, we see that this word is ra'ah, right? We recognize the vowel points. You know, we have to acknowledge the vowel points. If we try to look at scripture and don't use the vowel points, you know, how will we know what it is that inspiration is in fact trying to cause us to understand? But interestingly enough, when we look over here, when we look at the word ra'ah, if we go to the very next, that's exactly the same. Ra'ah. Okay. Ra'ah. It's no different. Same vowels, same sounds, everything. But this here is a bird of prey. Right? Bird of prey, vulture, from its sharp sight. And so when we think about a vulture, we think about like eagles or these birds that are these birds of prey. They have a very good eyesight. They're able to see things from far away and know what that thing is. And so it's interesting that the Hebrew word in the Hebrew is exactly the same as this bird of prey. In other words, the idea that is coming across when we think about the definition behind this word that means to see causes us to think about this animal that's able to see long distances, right? And know what it is. Like sometimes you see afar off these things that are far away and you kind of have like maybe a silhouette or, you know, kind of a shady image. You don't really know what it is from afar. But these animals, that the very same word that's given to us to mean to see, the thing that they're named, you know, that they share a name with, are these animals that see long distances, have this sharp sight. But not only that, the bird is looking from afar off, not just to look at the thing,
Mm.
right? He's looking at it because he wants to prepare himself to deal with it. He wants to go over and interact with the thing that he's looking at. He wants to see a thing from far off and then draw nigh unto it and interact with it. When we're talking about a bird of prey, his interaction is he's going to eat it, right? But we could think about the fact that, you know, this animal is going to intimately deal with this thing that he has seen from a far distance and comes up and you know, and interacts with it. And so we could think about what it is that the Most High has done with first Avram and now Avraham in the same way, where the Most High is in fact afar off, and he deals with this one who he's seen from afar off, and then he comes down now and interacts with him. And we've seen that, you know, this is how the times that we've seen this being used, this is what's happened, right? Where we see these places where it says that Yahweh appeared unto Abraham. You know, he's having these intimate interactions where he's you know, he's having these experiences that are happening, you know, with his eyes. There's not things that are happening like in his mind, but there's things that are going on that he's physically able to look and see. Okay. All right. So
Abraham's able to look and see.
Well, it seems like he is, right? It seems like the Most High is appearing to him. He's causing himself to be seen by him. You know, another way that we can look at this word here is to be seen. To be seen. If we look in Jusinius, we see that there are various ways that this word is to see or to be seen. And so this is a situation where Yahweh appeared to him, right? And so he's causing himself to be seen. And we don't have to interject this thought, because in the second verse, he lifts up his eyes and sees and he looks and he saw him, right? So he made himself appear unto Abraham. And so again, we wanted to look at some of the things that we see over here, because he comes to do, it seems, a few things. Three things I'm saying for sure he came to do that we recognize and see that are spoken. Another thing that the rabbis speak about is, you know, if we look at this situation as being something that happened kind of chronologically in close proximity to the previous chapter. If we remember, again, the last chapter, he just was circumcised. Abraham was just circumcised as a grown man. And we talked about the fact that you know, the only reason why, you know, babies, I don't know why, at least me, I was of the thought that, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. But it's probably more about the baby's communication skills. All he's able to do is cry, so I can't know the severity of pain that he's in, unless, of course, he's like my baby Yosef, who passed out 2 times whenever he was circumcised. But the rabbis talk about the fact that the Most High came and visited Abraham, among other things, to comfort him in this time physically, in this time, because of what he just physically had went through, in terms of he's if we were to think about the timing of this, he's probably literally healing, his body's healing, and and the Most High comes and for comfort, among other things. But the thing that we see, the thing that we see go on with the way in which Abraham reacts, even though he is potentially in this situation where he's physically hindered because of what had just happened, we see that he lifted up his eyes and looked. He saw these 3 men standing opposite him, and when he saw them, he ran from his tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the ground. And so we see with Abraham, there was nothing that was going to stop him from worshiping. He saw 3 men, but he understood. It said that he said Yahweh. He saw these 3 men, and when he saw these 3 men, what he said to them was, it says Yahweh there. So it was his understanding. Whatever we want to say about it, whichever one it was, whether it was out of the 3, it was 1, or it was the whatever. What Abraham himself understood to be going on was that the Most High was coming and visiting him at that time. Okay. And so if we say that he was in this situation where he was physically hindered, what we know still, in spite of his whatever state he was in, it says that he got up and he ran from his tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the ground. And so at that moment, there was nothing that was able to stop Abraham from worshiping his God. Okay. And so, we with ourselves, we can come up with all kinds of excuses to not worship, right? We're too tired, we're too we whatever. You have your body hurts, you got COVID. There's just we whatever we could think of, we use that excuse to prohibit ourselves from worship. But we can say potentially, just based on the way in which this is given to us, the order of events, that this could have happened in close proximity to the sealing of the covenant in Abraham's flesh. And when he saw what he understood to be Yahweh, it says that he literally ran from where he was. I wonder how good Abraham's eyesight was and how far off they was. Because it says that he ran from the tent door. Not that they was at the tent door, but they was wherever they was. They was standing opposite. What's that mean? I wonder how far he ran. Lo, men stood by him. By. All. Preposition singular or plural. Conjunction above, over. Okay, so in some type of relation, it could be anything.
Preposition.
It could be anything. It could be by, it could be opposite, it could be all of these things, right? But whatever it was, he ran from his door. So it just leads me to believe that they was like down a little bit.
It wasn't at the door.
They wasn't at the door because he didn't run to the door. He got to the door and then ran from where the door is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like they were just right at the door. They was somewhere beyond the door and he ran to it. And so again, there's another situation that we are able to further understand that this was a physical encounter, right? Because it wasn't just like he was having some vision of the Most High, right? He saw beings. He saw these physical beings and he was going to physically meet with them, right? And so when we think about this, you know, it causes us to think about, you know, things that we look at. Let's look at Exodus. Read Exodus 33 and 11. Verse 11.
Verse 11 says, thus Yahweh spoke to Moshe face to face, as a man speaks to his friend, and he would return to the camp, but his servant Yehoshua, son of Nun, a young man, did not leave the tent.
Drop down to verse 20.
But he said, you are unable to see my face, for no man does see me and live. And
okay, very good. So we see that with Moshe, there was a special relationship where it talks about this whole face-to-face thing, understanding that this is not saying that Moses saw the Most High's face. Because here we get clarity in verse 20. You have this close, intimate relationship, but you haven't seen my face. No man sees it and lives. And so whatever we're seeing back in Genesis is after this. It's before this. This is after that. And so, you know, we're able to see that the Most High, he might have this intimate relationship where, you know, like he had with Moses, where they, you know, Moses, let's add this to it. Let's add Numbers. Let's add Numbers to it. Numbers 12. Numbers 11, Numbers 12, my fault. 12, 6. Oh, wait, why'd it go to 11? Hold on. Numbers 12, verse 6. Read 6 through 8.
6 through 8. And he said, "Hear now my words. If your prophet is of Yahweh, I make myself known to him in a vision, and I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moshe. He is trustworthy in all my house. I speak with him mouth to mouth and plainly, and not in riddles. And he sees the form of Yahweh. So why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe?"
Okay, very good. So we see, looking over here, what excuse me, what Moses has to say about himself in regards to his connection with the Most High, where in general, the Most High is visiting these people in visions, right? He speaks to these people in dreams. However, the interactions that Abraham is having is something that's more than that. It's actually like unto what we see with Moses. Something else that I always want to add to the mix is something that Yeshua has to say, which is in John chapter 6, verse 46.
John 6 and 46. 46. Here you go. Says, "Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from Elohim. He has seen the Father."
Okay. All right. So that's something that Yeshua has said. It's another thing we see. Let's see, look at this. Look at chapter 5, 37.
Chapter 5 of John. 37. It says, "And the Father who sent me, he bore witness of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form."
Well, whose voice then was you hearing? Because people was talking to him. Abraham thought he was talking to the Most High. He, in his mind, he was talking to Elohim. Yeshua just said nobody never even heard his voice or seen his form. Well, whose voice and whose form was they seeing? I'm saying that they was seeing Yeshua. They was hearing Yeshua in his incarnate form, based on the fact that when we look in Colossians in verse chapter 1, what is it? "15. What did I say right there?
15. Who is the likeness of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn of all creation?
That's talking about Yeshua. Yeshua is the likeness of the invisible Elohim. And so, although when Yeshua said you didn't hear his voice and you didn't see his form, talking about the Most High, but what you did see is his likeness, which is Yeshua, though. What you did hear was his voice. If you didn't hear his voice whenever he spoke at Mount Sinai, that wasn't his voice. If you didn't hear his voice, Moses didn't hear his voice. If you didn't hear his voice, then Abraham didn't hear his voice. But whose voice did they hear, though? They must have heard Yeshua's voice. because he's the representation. He's the physical representation of the invisible Elohim. And so when we look back at Genesis at Bereshit chapter 18, we're able to see that there is a meeting that happens between Abraham and the physical representation of Yahweh,
Mhm.
who, based on this right here, is Yeshua. And so again, when we look back at, go back to Genesis, let's go back over to Genesis here. Chapter 18. Okay, so we see that Abraham has a request, right? He wants to make sure that, first of all, he's still in good standing.
Mhm.
He want to make sure everything good. Every time that the Most High come and visit you, might not always be good, right? So he says, what's the read verse 3 right there?
And he said, Yahweh, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by.
Right. He don't want this just to be like just a little, just, a little passing by. Oh, he's over there. No, stay a while. Check me out. So then he gets into this other situation, which again causes us to further the idea that this, in fact, is not something that's going on in his mind, but it's a physical interaction, right? He's talking about, I want to wash your feet. Why don't you just chill with me for a little bit under this tree right here, and let me get you some food together. Let me get my my woman to hook us some bread to refresh your hearts. And so when we look at this, we see the hospitableness of Abraham. And so when we think about this interaction here, it's not something like when we think about this idea of the washing of someone's feet. It's kind of customary. It's a customary thing, before meals, before bed. These people, they didn't have covered shoes and socks like what we have in today's day. They wore sandals, right? So when people walked around in the desert, right, your feet, think about what your feet look like walking with flip-flops in the sand, right, when you go to the beach.
Dirty. Look dirty.
It's a mess, right? And so it's customary to at least have your guests' feet be washed. It's going a little above and beyond to actually be the one that's doing it, right? So we do have that element there that exists, where Abraham was someone who has people, right? He has people, servants. He very well could have said, Jeeves, please wash the guests' feet, right? the thing that I guess takes it up a level is the fact that he himself was doing it, right? And so this act in and of itself is not something that's over top. It's not this super sign of reverence or worship. However, it is a sign of service and humility because of the fact that Abraham himself is again the one that is doing it. So I want to think about this word here, humility, because this is something that Abraham is he's teaching us this, right? And in spite of his potential issues, which it don't even have to have been yesterday that we think about, this whole physical situation that went on with him. As far as I'm concerned, if it's next week, I'm taking off work for at least a week.
6 weeks.
if not longer, right? I'm going on vacation. I'm on disability, right? And we see Abraham still dealing in and showing us these pictures of service and humility. And so I wanted to look at let's just look over here. If we was to say what do we think humility is? I'm saying in the English. Let's see here. What do we say? What do we say humility is? See here. Let's see. In ethics, it is the freedom from pride and arrogance, humbleness of mind, modest estimate of one's own worth, a modest estimate of one's own worth, which is interesting thought. Humility consists in lowliness of mind, a deep sense of one's own unworthiness in the sight of Elohim, self-abasement, penitence for sin, and submission to the divine will. All of these things are things that how we are to understand what humility is. And again, this is something that Avraham is expressing for us, right? He's teaching us here humility. He's teaching us self-abasement. He's teaching us a deep sense of one's own unworthiness in the sight of Elohim. He saw Elohim and he didn't say, well, I'm far too good to get down and wash your feet myself. Let me have one of my people do it for me. But he had a lowliness and when you think about it, generally speaking, would he have been wrong? Like, the point is, get the guest's feet washed is the point. But he didn't think about any of that because he had a lowliness of mind. His first thought was, I need to do this. Right? Are we not one that's something got to be done and we're looking around trying to figure out who can do it? Or do we just go ahead and get the thing done, what needs to be done? He exemplified for us service and humility in his action of, here are these three guests, one or all, Abraham is having in his mind an understanding that he's experiencing the Most High. And so he jumps into action to exemplify humility in his actions. Let's look at Mark. Read for us Mark 7 verse 20. Read 20 through 23.
And he said, what comes out of a man that defiles it?
Hold on a second. So we're talking about that which exists inside of a man that manifests itself, right? Something that exists inside of man that manifests itself. What is the things?
Far from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil reasonings.
Okay, so hold on. But again, we're speaking about the essence of what exists inside of man and his evil, wicked heart. Go ahead. 21.
21. Proceed evil reasonings, adulteries, whorings, and murders, thefts, greedy desires, wickedness, deceit, indecency, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these wicked matters come from within a man and defile a man.
Okay, these are the things which defile a man. These things that come from, it says, from within, out of the heart of man. These things come from within man. And in verse 22, we see here one of those things is pride. Right? Pride is that thing. And arrogance is that thing that that's the, it's the opposite of humbleness, right? That's the thing that keeps me from being humble. That's the thing that causes me to have an inability to operate in humility, right? That causes me pride. That is, causes me not to have a heart for service. When we think about service, which again, this is what Abraham is exemplifying for us, is about serving other people, right? It's about doing something not for your own good, but for someone else's good. Service, right? You're serving someone. You're doing something for someone, right? Not yourself, right? You're taking your wants and needs and moving those things to the side, and you're caring about someone else. Let's go over to, let's see here. Let's go to Sirach, book of Sirach, chapter 10. Read verses, let's see here, 6 through 8.
Bear not hatred. Oh, you make it bigger. 6 through 8, right? Bear not hatred to thy neighbor for every wrong, and do nothing at all by injurious practices. Pride is hateful before Elohim and man, and both doth one commit iniquity. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
Okay, very good. So the kingdom being translated from one people to another, the one people who are operating in pride and hate relinquish their rights to the kingdom, where it's translated from them who are operating in unrighteousness, right? And translates over to those that aren't, right? But we see over here, we look in verse 6, 7, and 8. Bear not hatred, and pride is hateful, right? And so we have these two things going. It's interesting when you think about pride, because this is now saying that pride is hateful. Bear not hate, talking about hate in of itself to thy neighbor. But then it says pride is hateful before Elohim. So it's interesting that when we think about, so these two things, right, that are being given to us, the hatred of our neighbor and then the existence of pride within us, both of these things are things that the Most High is hateful of, right? And so when we look back at Abraham, we see that he is manifesting love towards his neighbor, right? He sees these strangers again, who he has understanding of as being Yahweh. And so not only is he manifesting love towards them, but again, he's also manifesting selflessness, right? He is free of pride, right? And so when we think about these things, pride, these things that rise up inside of us, these are things that the Most High, of course, wants for us to be able to rid ourselves of, so that we can, look at Abraham and the fact that he himself being free of pride and arrogance here. Look at the situation that he finds himself in. He's visited by the Most High, right? He's having this very intimate situation with the Creator, where he comes and literally appears to him, right? Because of the character that exists within Abraham. Let's look at Proverbs. So we're going to go actually to Proverbs first before we can switch versions. 22 and 4. Hold on 1 second. Let's go back to the scriptures. 22 and 4.
The reward of humility is the fear of Yahweh, riches and esteem in life.
The reward of humility, because humility is selflessness, right? So when you think about selflessness, you're not thinking about, it's not self-serving, right? If I do something for a reward, then I'm not dealing with it in a selfless way, right? But at the same time, there is a reward for humility, which is, it says here, the fear of Yahweh. So the reward of humility is having a perfect understanding of who the Most High is, because that's really what the fear of Yahweh is. So the reward of humility is draws you closer to the Most High, and that is the riches and the esteem or glory and life, right? And so Abraham has this perfect understanding of who the Most High is, where he's able to recognize him from afar off, right? We don't just see man according to their physical makeup. We know every man according to the spirit, right? So he was able to look afar off and look and see that it was in fact Yahweh who was afar off, and he goes and worships him and serves him in humility. What's this in the Hebrew here? So we understand what humility means in English. What do we have in the Hebrew? Anava. 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 Condescension. I know people don't like when you condescend.
Condescendingly irritates people.
Here, let's go back to this, because this can be confusing a bit. But this one, maybe we'll have to revisit this, right? We'll look at it. But we have these other ideas: modesty, clemency, gentleness, humility, meekness, right? We understand all of these things, right? Condescension seems negative, I guess, in a way. The way we think about it in our modern terms.
Because it's pride, they speak condescendingly.
Yes,
Down.
Yeah. So let's look at this here. Let's go over to here. Oh, won't let me do it. Okay, so hold on a second. Okay. Voluntary descent from rank, dignity, or just claims, relinquishment of strict right. Right? I have the right to be over you, but I'm going to relinquish that right. Right? A voluntary descent from rank. We don't got to deal with hold on. You don't got to salute me in here. Just relax. Right? A voluntary descent from rank, dignity, or just claims. And so let's see. So, here, look at this. It forbids pride and commands humility, modesty, and condescension to others. Right? And so this thought is what we see from looking at Proverbs 22:4. That word anava, it's not condescension like what we would think of, right? This is the idea of, inside of oneself, where it's forbidding pride and commanding humility. I must not be prideful. I must, in fact, walk in humility. Right? This is my my baseline. Right? This is where I'm at. And so again, when we think about that in terms of Proverbs 22:4, where it talks about the fact that humility and the fear of Yahweh are the riches and honor of life. This is again a clear example of the one who's operating in this is someone that has a clear understanding of who the Most High is and the way in which we are supposed to be operating in terms of our character. Humility, right? Again, this is what Abraham is expressing, manifesting for us. All right, let's continue. Let's look at Zephaniah. Let's move this out of the way. Let's go down. Let's look at chapter 2. And let's read 1 through 3. This is an interesting verse here. Go ahead.
Gather together, O nation without shame. Before the law gives birth, the day shall pass on like chaff. Before the burning wrath of Yahweh comes upon you. Before the day of wrath of Yahweh comes upon you. Seek Yahweh, all you meek ones of the earth who have done his right rulings. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, if so be that you are hidden in the day of wrath of Yahweh.
Okay, very good. This is interesting. And I thought this was interesting because it talks about a people who are walking in the character of the Most High, meek, humble, right? Those that have done right ruling, those that are seeking justice, those that have gathered together without shame before the day of wrath. Because we can talk about the Most High bringing his people together. We can talk about the manifestation of the renewed covenant and the Most High bringing together his people, Israel and Judah, together, right? We can talk about Messiah coming and bringing all of his people together. But this over here talks about people gathering together without shame before the wrath of Yahweh comes. The only way they do that is through meekness, through righteousness, those that are seeking humility, those that are seeking to forbid pride within themselves. You know, the things that keeps people separated is in fact pride. It's pride. The thing that keeps people separated is the lack of meekness. Let's see what this word is here. Something that Abraham tried to teach us about it, right? He tried to teach us about it. Oh, same word. I didn't even know it was the same word. It just happened to be that. Right? It's the same idea, isn't it? But Abraham is trying to teach us. I don't know if he's trying to teach us. He's showing us how he is. He's showing us why the Most High even deals with him in the first place. And this verse helps us to understand that if we want to secure our position, that position of being hidden in the day of wrath, the Most High is coming and he is exacting his wrath upon people. If we want to be hidden from that, from his backhand slap, if we want to be hidden from that, we have to manifest these characteristics that Abraham is showing us. Well, he's not even showing us. This is just how he is. This is the situation that happened, and his response was him operating in humility, him operating in condescension, him operating in gentleness and meekness. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Let's go back over to Genesis. All right. So again, we see him getting the foods together. Gets the foot washing things together. He gets uh the bread and things. He calls for his wife, woman, hurry, make me 3 measures of flour. That's a lot of flour, actually. I can't remember. I didn't look at it this time, but I think when I looked at the measurements, whatever measurements that was, it was like a lot of flour. So there was a lot of cakes he put together a feast. It said he ran to the herd. Again, he could have let the young man that he gave the calf to, he could have let him do the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it says that Abraham ran to the herd and he went and picked the choices. He took a tender and good calf. He did it himself. Again, it's just everything that he's doing is just exuding humility, right? He's teaching us just by his actions, right? Just by his natural things that he's doing. He ran to the herd. And then he probably got this young man. He know that this young man gonna put that special seasonings on it, right? It ain't like he just was like, he was not being lazy here or anything. He went and got his guy. He gonna throw them seasonings up in the calf, right? Then he goes and he gets some curd and some milk, right? And the calf this is an all-day affair. You're not just hooking up no calf. They didn't have no microwave. This is a whole ordeal. Like this is an all-day thing. I mean, even if you just was talking about just making bread, like if you sat up there just from start to finish, how long did it take you to make some bread?
2.5 hours.
2.5.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe 1 hour. I could do 1 hour, 45 minutes.
With all the
With dried
and-
dried yeast. I mean, that yeast would take longer to rise.
I'm saying even still, if you just talk about just only the bread, that takes a while. But now he had to go and find the calf. The calf got to be prepared and cooked and all of that. And so they do all of that. They hanging out. They chilling. They got their curds and their milk. And they hanging out sipping on some milk. And eating. And so again, this is not a dream sequence.
But it's not true.
He's not in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
He is going through these physical things and tasks and doing these things, for and with the Most High.
Yep.
Open flame, char grilled. And so let me just say this. If you don't got no grilling skills, then I question your connection to people. I'm just saying that. Just as a side note.
I ain't got no brothers.
Oh, you got to. I don't know what to say about
Gotta
that.
learn.
I don't know. I don't even know.
Got some baking skills though, you know what I'm saying?
We out here on this open flame though. You know what I mean? Let me take that back, because we are a people. We're a people that we've been so separated from our true nature and the things that attach us to our people. Like we just don't even have all of the things that we got to go back and learn
Yeah, never
these things.
No way equipment. No way put that in my Twitter.
You're doing the George Foreman.
No, I really no.
You don't do the George Foreman either.
I don't like, I'm not saying I don't like. I love grilled food, but there's a lot of debate about charred grilled food and health benefits and the health deficits.
Yeah, these people was cooking on the open flames. Like it's just, that's what they
Coals underground.
was doing. Open flames.
Underground.
If it was their oven was like in
Coals
a pit of
underground.
fire.
Underground.
Yeah. So it was just like, this was just part of our situation.
Mm-hmm.
But saying all that just to say that, there was a period of time that went by that Abraham is communing with the Most High. And so when we go down here and see, it's interesting that we have kind of the same, almost identical situation that happens when this revelation was given to Abraham. It's kind of reiterated here. And then Sarah, we see, she has the same reaction. Go down to verse 11. Read again 10, 11. Read 10 down through 14.
And he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life. And see, Sarah, your wife, is to have a son. And Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old too? And Yahweh said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I truly have a child, since I am old? Is any matter too hard for Yahweh? At the appointed time, I am going to return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah is to have a son.
Okay, very good. So some things that we are able to notice here is that, as already said, Abraham understood one or not all three of these people to be Yahweh. Who's ever speaking affirms this, right? He said what he was going to do. And then we see in 14, when the reaction that Sarah has, takes place, 14, is anything too hard for Yahweh? And so it's interesting that we have here again, further evidence of, what's going on, being this physical meeting that's going on between Abraham and the Most High. But again, when we see both Abraham and Sarah are having the same reaction because of the fact that, they're laughing only because, this is highly unusual for them at this point to be having children. It says that Sarah was past the way of women.
Another thing I noticed from here is that Yahweh didn't take really too kindly to the laughter. I don't think it was like
Why are you laughing?
like what? You laughing there?
Yeah. What you laughing now? No, you laughed. She tried to deny it. Sarah denied it. He said no, but you did laugh. No, seriously, you laughed. But she was afraid, it says also. She denied it only because she was scared. Right? She was afraid. No, you did laugh. But when we see over here that the reasoning behind it was, of course, the fact that they literally were old. So in order for something like what he was saying to be able to come to pass, it would be without a shadow of a doubt that this was miraculous and divine intervention from the Most High, which I think was the point of it all. The whole point of all of this was for the Most High to cause for Abraham and Sarah both to know that he was in fact working on their behalf with the manifestation of their literal seed, to kind of be the father of the nation that was going to be birthed, through him. The Most High came and he made this proclamation, pronouncing this covenant between him and Abraham. And he wanted every step of the way to let Abraham and Sarah know that, he said what he was going to do, and he himself did it.
That'd be miraculous.
Yeah, he performed miracles, right? Let's see what Shula says. She was surprised at Yahweh asking Abraham because she laughed and said those things within herself, Yah knows and sees. Oh, yes, the Most High, of course, he understands and knows the secret matters, right? And just like when we see with Yeshua, things happen with Yeshua where he responds to thoughts that people had in their minds, right? Not even the words that people are saying, but the thoughts that people are having in their minds. Just like that's what happens here, right? Where she's off to herself, they're under the tree, and she's behind the door. So it's like she's in the tent, they're out the tent chilling, and she's hearing what's going on and laughing within herself. And
yeah, I'm sure she wasn't like
yeah, right,
busting.
Yeah, all right. But in herself, she's probably
right. Yeah.
But the point is that the Most High is able to know the hearts. Only the Most High is able to know the hearts of men. And so, she's able, the Most High is able to see what it is that she's doing internally, and address these things to her. It's quick. It's not like he don't go, I heard you. Like, no, you did laugh. But it's over. But I think that we have to be able to trust in the Most High. This is something that Abraham and Sarah are learning as we're looking at this. Have to be able to learn to trust in the Most High beyond the physical, right? Because it's nothing for people, who are in the physical prime of their life to have a baby, right? That's just normal. Anybody can do it, right? But, well, most people, I shouldn't say anybody. Yeah. Most people can do it. But for both Sarah and Abraham both to be at this old age, where maybe Abraham supposed to have circulation issues at this time of his life, and maybe Sarah, well, it says she's it says that she's after the manner of women at this time. Like she's not even, what's it called when y'all is that ovulating? She's not even ovulating no more. She's after the manner of a woman. That's interesting. Why is it phrased like that? The manner of a woman, like this. She's after the manner of a woman. That's like part of a woman's. It's part of a woman's. What makes her a woman?
Yeah, is it like, she's not a woman anymore because she can't produce?
She's. I mean, I guess she's past her purpose. I guess she's in a different. She's beyond her womanly years, I guess.
Prime.
Yeah, that makes me think of like, a lot of women who are past their manner of woman. A lot of them are expressing the sadness of not bearing children.
Oh, who never did.
Yeah. They were pursuing their careers or pursuing all of these worldly accolades, and now that they're past their manner of woman, there's a lot of sadness and loneliness that happens, and that makes me think of what Sarah said right here, is that after I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure in my Lord being old also? You know what I mean? So children are a pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's truly a blessing to experience that.
Yeah. And I think that it's sad that, just thinking about this idea of this manner of woman, it's sad that we have, the things that people prioritize in life, becomes, children almost become an afterthought.
Right, yeah.
Even when you have children, like it's like you hurry up and get back into the workforce. Like it's like you have a job. How many weeks job give you weeks off?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So they really teach you that, basically it's just recovering. It's not even I wonder if they even came up with that.
Time.
Is it that?
Because dads can get off now. They had to make it equal for the men.
When they do that? I'm saying you talking about recent history. If they did,
a man can take off for 6 weeks
Extremely
from
recent.
normal companies if his wife has a baby.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Baby bonding.
I'm saying that must be
That's
a
a new
recent
thing.
thing, because I've never heard of
They
such
had it
thing.
when I was working.
Imagine me going to the job and saying, I'm going to go ahead and take maternity leave.
And is it paid for?
Oh,
that?
paternity leave.
I mean, you get all your vacation days,
Okay.
and then after that, unless it's FMLA, it's unpaid. But they don't have short term. It's not short term disability. It's more so they'll just give you time off without firing.
That's nice.
They won't fire you.
I think that's nice. However,
It is. Nice.
however, I think that the idea of it is nice. However, I think that what it is that we're training people to do is to get into this workforce and have your life be revolve around that thing.
That's true.
And you could deal with those people after I get mine's taken care of. I'll give you a little time, but you need to get back over here. And so, I think that, this world, this wicked, evil world that we live in takes us away from the natural order of things, which, the manner of woman is for her to be this woman, who's bearing children and taking care of these children and growing these children up. And so when we look over at, of course, looking at Sarah, who's beyond this, she's lived her life, and she was never able to conceive, throughout her life, and then now she's at this time in her life where she's beyond. To her, this is just total impossibility. Like, it don't. If I was gonna have a baby, I would have had it already. She's probably thinking in her mind. And so, but again, we're seeing that the Most High is doing it in this way so that he's at the forefront of it all, and letting everybody know that, he is, in fact, El Shaddai. Okay, what is we have here? She is an elder, just as Israelite men serve the military or priestly roles through a certain age. Yeah, she's beyond the age, right? The man was good for war up until a point. A priest was a priest up until a point, and she definitely was beyond that point. But again, all of this makes it more, just brings the understanding of who the Most High is more and more to the forefront. Okay, let's look at, let's drop down to 19. What's Daniel say? Shalom. I don't think she felt sad. I mean, she was laughing at the thought of bearing a child. I don't know if she was sad. I don't want to say that she was sad, because I don't know if she was sad. I think the laughter probably was just like disbelief, I think is what it was. Not necessarily sadness, but just disbelief. Like if somebody said some crazy, like, I saw some cow flying, you probably like, get out of here. Like, it's like a laughter that's a laughter of disbelief. The thing that was said was so far-fetched in her mind that it just brought about laughter. She may have been sad, because just for the simple fact of, not that it would happen, but just thinking about the fact that you're saying that this is going to happen, but how is it even supposed to happen? Like, past my time. But I think the idea is not sadness, but just disbelief.
She should be happy.
She said, "Shall I have pleasure?"
Yeah, the thing that lies ahead of her is in fact happiness, but she's just like, she don't see how these things could even come about.
Yeah.
All right, drop down to read 17 and 18.
17 and 18. And Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him.
Hold on a second. 19.
For I have known him so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahweh brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him.
Okay, very good. So we're able to see also within Abraham that we saw that he, of course, exemplifies service and humility. But we also are able to see that the very reason why Abraham was chosen to be the father of the people of the Most High, because he said that the Most High knows that he will command his children and his household after him. It's interesting when we look at the Torah, understanding that something that is part of the Torah is not only you having an understanding of Torah, learning it, studying it for yourself, but also teaching it to your children. It's able to remain alive because you pass it on as an inheritance to your children. And he knew that he was dealing with somebody who wasn't just going to have this thing that was this wonderful thing that he kept all to himself, but that he was going to teach to not only his children, it says his children and his household after him. And so a thing that we are also able to see from Abraham is the fact that he has these characteristics that are inside of him that causes for the Most High to look on him and say, this is my guy. And those things are things that we have to be sure that we exemplify in our lives. You know, service, humility, and keeping, not just keeping the commands of the Most High, but perpetuating the commands of the Most High by teaching them to our children and our household after us, right? Allowing for the knowledge of the Most High to be manifest in you, just like how Messiah talks about being a light. You know, we are the light of the world. And so, you know, what good is a light if it's hidden in a place where no one can see it? We have to be that light that is able to be viewed and seen by others, so that the light that we shine, you know, affects those that are around us. And so we see, you know, with Abraham, this very thing. All right, so that was just something that I wanted to talk about before we look lastly at you know, what the exchange between the Most High and Abraham here at the end, when we see that the Most High, you know, because we said at first that we were going to look at the things that the Most High came to do when he visited with Abraham here. We talked about the way that he comforted Abraham in terms of just even coming to even be with him. Imagine how that must have made Abraham feel to have the Most High literally come and dwell with him all day.
That's crazy. I mean,
How's that just even just make you feel? That all this stuff going on all over the place, and the most important one comes to dwell with you. So we see that he came and brought comfort to Abraham. He comes and announces the birth of Isaac. He comes with the knowledge of destroying Sodom, and with the possibility of saving whatever righteous people are in Sodom, which we find out later is, you know, the only one that's righteous that's there is Lot. And so when we look over here, we see that, let's see if we go down, looking at the verses here, which is another thing that I think is interesting, that in order to, I think, properly understand interactions like, say, what we see here with Abraham, between Abraham and the Most High. Another example is the interaction between Moses and the Most High, during the golden calf situation, where we see the Most High says, I'm just going to kill all these people and just start over with you, right? Or when we see this situation where Abraham, he says, read 22 and 23.
So the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Yahweh still stood before Abraham. And Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong?
Okay, so different things that happen in the scriptures. It's necessary for us to know the character of the Most High to have the proper understanding of what you're even looking at. Because somebody who don't understand the character of the Most High, who don't understand that the Most High is in fact just, who don't understand who the Most High does possess all knowledge, might say, well, the Most High was going to go in there and just kill everybody just willy-nilly, and if there was righteous people in there, they was going to die too. And Abraham seemingly had a better understanding, was more righteous, was more dealing with right ruling than the Most High was. Somebody could make that argument if they didn't have the proper understanding of the Most High. I feel like when we have these type of situations, we're experiencing the Most High having these interactions with man for the benefit of the man and not the Most High. Is this interaction adding to the Most High, or adding to or taking away from the Most High, or Abraham? Like who's the one that's gaining over here? When we look at this, and this, the Most High already knows who's over there. Okay. He knows who's there. And so, I think that he allows for this thing to go on, not for his purposes, but for Abraham's purpose. Like, why do Abraham, even care about what's going on over there? Well, I guess probably because at the whole time, he's only thinking about Lot, probably.
They just came out and asked him about Lot. What about Lot?
That's probably would have been the best case scenario. But again, we're dealing with a man.
I think Abraham seems to be like a pretty hospitable guy. And
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that he cared if there were righteous people in Sodom. Yeah. I mean, he knew what Sodom was hitting for. You know what I mean? But still, he probably thought there was some other people in there that possibly were decent people. And so I think he genuinely, in his heart, yeah, of course, Lot was the prime reason, but I think he was petitioning for anyone else that could have done it.
Yeah. And treading lightly while doing it. Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city.
Hypothetically.
Let's just say, would you spare it for 50 people were in it? and then now you see kind of the thing go on. So now I think the reason why it goes down is because he knows that there ain't 50 people in there. He started his barter way too high. Knowing what was over there, because the whole reason it talks about is the fact that the iniquity of the place, it rose up to, it said, hold on, go back to verse 20.
20. And Yahweh said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy.
Oh, and 21.
I am going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me. And if not, I know.
And so, the thing about it is that sin has to be accounted for.
What?
It has to be accounted for. Sin. Sin requires death. And, apparently this place was so that, the things that they were doing was it just reached a boiling point. Likewise, we can think about this place that we live in currently. The more I look around and the more I see, the more I wonder, how much longer is it really going to be?
Yeah.
Because this place is wickedness is just increasing as the day goes by. When we sit up here and if you turn on the news and see what people are doing, it's just like things are just getting worse and worse as time goes on. The things that the world is calling normal is just becoming more and more wicked every day. And so, the outcry, I don't know what the the difference is between what was going on over here and what we see going on in the world today. That the Most High is ready to make an account for, all of this wickedness that's going on in the world. But again, we see with Abraham, petitioning to the Most High, for the land of whatever righteous people are over in the land. And we see that he gets all the way down to 10.
Yeah.
He said that he will not destroy it on account of 10.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's going to be 10 over there.
He just went all the way down to 1.
Because that's the only one.
Because that's the only one. He would have been
That's
like, we're still going to destroy it, but we'll take that one and your family out.
Yeah. So unfortunately fortunately for Sodom, they're about to meet their demise. But I just wanted to kind of bring out the fact that I think that this whole interaction was more about Abraham and his thoughts about what was going on over there and the compassion that he had for whatever righteous would be, just so we're able to again see kind of what the mind of the righteous looks like. The mind of the righteous cares about the innocent, wherever they might be. The mind of the righteous is concerned about those that are like-minded with the mind of the righteous. And we see, with Abraham, we see how he had genuine love and compassion for whatever good was left over there, if there was any. Which is again something that we're able to look and see. That should be the thing that we have inside of us. We're able to look out in this wicked world that there is, and not just say, just wipe out the whole place, right? Is how we might think about things. But I think the better way to think about all of that is, where is the good over there? What's worth redeeming? There's got to be something that's able to be saved from all of this wickedness. I don't know who the righteous are, but am I able to throw a lifeline out to the unseen, unknown righteous that's over there to save them from what I know is coming? The Most High didn't have to even tell Abraham what he was doing. He could have just been like, all right, then I'll holler at you. Good looking. The lamb was all that. The calf was the best. Nobody made curds and milk like you. I'm out. But he told him what his plans were to be able to show the heart of, show us what the heart of the righteous is, and that we should have a heart and a mind for those that are outside of our own situation. Abraham wasn't in harm whatsoever. He got the news of his life. From that point forward, his life was only going to get better. But he found out about the potential misfortune of others, and he turned attention away from the great, fantastic news that he just received, and his heart and his mind was focused towards those who could potentially, get, some help. He wanted to be help for somebody, some unknown person, unnamed person, wherever they were. And that's the way that he's showing us. That's the way that we have to think about things, is that, our existence, we exist to serve. We exist to be able to reach outside of our situation. Our situation, just like Abraham, could be perfect situation.
Yes.
Well, it's a perfect situation because of the fact that Abraham has hope. He has hope. He don't have the evidence of the thing, but he has hope. The Most High said, in a year, you're going to have a baby. Done. Hope. He has a hope egg over there waiting to hatch. But even still, he's able to turn his gaze away from his situation and worry about those who don't have any hope. And, we have to be, live our lives along that wise. We have hope in Messiah. We have been connected to, the Redeemer, our King, Yeshua HaMashiach. But we can't just sit around and think about how good our spiritual situation is, because there's those that are out there who are seeking a path and looking for the light, and there's none to be seen. And so we have to be that light for those that are, that are in Sodom, the 10 that's even there, who are searching for a path out. Let's see here. It says, we talked about the mind of Lot and his choice to dwell in Sodom among the unrighteous. Something in him was off to not separate, and his offspring become enemies of Israel. But or Abraham's sake. Lot is interesting when we look at Lot. And again, when he's spoken about after the fact, he's called righteous Lot. But he definitely was in a highly unrighteous place, so much so that the Most High decides to come down and wipe it out entirely. I think that when we think about Lot, he shows us that our surroundings can't define who we are. Lot lives in the epitome of wickedness, but yet he stayed over there. And so when you think about Yeshua said he didn't come for the righteous. He came for the ones that were sick and dying. And so, if people looked at the people who Yeshua hung around with, they probably think that he was wicked just because of he hung out with wine bibbers. That's that long title always cracks me up. Wine bibbers and tax collectors. He hung out with tax collectors and wine bibbers. Yeshua did. But it says that he didn't come for the righteous. The righteous got no use for him. He come to turn people unto righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lot wasn't Yeshua, but he does give us that thought that for him to be placed in the category of righteous and to be where he was, he didn't allow for his surroundings to cause him to be like them. But we'll talk more about Lot as time goes on. All right, so anybody else have
great
any?
portion to practice your Hebrew numbers.
What?
It's a great portion to practice
yeah,
your Hebrew
there's lots of
tens.
numbers here. 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10. Yeah, if you're a Hebrew student, you can see all of the numbers here. Well, your tens tables plus 45.
We start at 45.
He started at 50, but then he goes down 5, and then he goes
even.
40, 30, 20, 10. Yeah. All right. So is there any last questions, comments before we are done here?
Mama.
Okay. All right. That being said, I guess we'll go ahead and be done for now. Y'all willing, you all have a blessed rest of the Sabbath, however long that is. We have another hour to go. So you have a blessed week, and y'all willing, we'll be back on next week to continue with our look at Bereshit.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.